may proceed.
Mr. King, please introduce yourself to the jury.
Tyson King.
And do you know the defendant, Timothy Harrington?
I do.
And how do you know him?
We met at a camp here at Ole Miss after our junior year of high school, and then we also had a moving company together.
Okay. If you could, you said moving company together. When did you all have that moving company together?
It started right after, during the pandemic, so in the summer of 2020.
And when you say a moving company, was that here in Oxford, Mississippi?
It was here in Oxford, Mississippi, but we also did the surrounding areas too.
Okay. So tell me, what sorts of, you said a moving company, like you move people into dorms and businesses. Explain that.
So our moving company, we just move people from either, here in Oxford, it would just be from like a one apartment to another apartment. And then if we had anything outside the city, it would be from one location to the next. So just all their belongings.
And typically, was it you and Timothy who did moves together?
Yes, but we also did hire outside help.
So you and Tim would sometimes hire outside help. Under what situations would you do that?
Typically, if me or Tim wasn't readily available to do the move, we would hire outside help. Or if we had more than, let's say, if we had multiple moves that day, and we know we had a list of them, because we would typically do them. So if we knew that we couldn't do it all by ourselves, we would typically hire somebody.
So, so I understand. Typically, the two of you could do it if you could do it alone. If you could do it alone.
Yes, just depending on the size of the move.
But if you weren't available, or if he wasn't available, you all would hire somebody else so you could still have a two-man job.
Correct.
And then if you had big moves or multiple moves, the two of you would hire a third person.
3 or more, just depending on how big the move.
So I want to go back to July 8th, 2022. Were you in Oxford that day?
I was in Hattiesburg that morning, and I came back to Oxford that afternoon.
And did you and Tim have any moves scheduled that day?
Not.
And usually, did you both know if you had moves scheduled?
Yes.
And who had keys to the box truck?
We both had a key.
So did anyone else have a key?
No.
So just you and Tim had keys?
Yes.
And have you seen that box truck? Where is it now?
I have absolutely no idea.
Who took the box truck from you?
Oxford Police Department.
So the police seized the box truck?
To my knowledge.
Oh, well, did they take it in front of you?
They did, pretty forcibly.
Okay. Your Honor, may I approach the witness? Mr. King, please look through these photos. I'm handing the witness what's marked as State's Exhibit 51. And do you recognize what those are photos of?
Yes, it's the box truck that we had.
Your Honor, I'd like to enter into evidence, State's Exhibit 51, the photos of the box truck of...
Any objection?
Oh, I'm sorry. Just pictures of the box.
Pictures box.
Go ahead.
Okay. Just one picture or multiple pictures? Four pictures.
Your Honor, may I publish to the jury?
All right, you may. That's composite 51, though, right?
Yes, Your Honor. I'm showing the witness, what's in evidence now is states Exhibit 51. Mr. King, can you see that in front of you? Is it showing up?
Yes,
Okay. Is that the photo of your box truck? Is that a photo of your box truck?
it is.
Okay. And this box truck, when you all decided to start a moving company, how did y'all get this box truck?
So we got the box truck. So we had been in business for 3 years at the time, and we got the box truck going into the 3rd year of business. And I think his grandfather found the box truck, and then once we decided that we were going to get it, I'm pretty sure his grandfather paid for it in cash, and I just gave him my half of it.
So Tim Harrington's family was able to find the box truck, and you all split the cost.
Correct.
Okay. And I want to point to a little sort of diamond on the side of the box truck.
Okay.
See that?
Mm-hmm.
Is that the distinctive mark of your box truck?
Yes.
Your Honor, I'm just going to approach the witness. Marks for identification as I think correct.
No objection.
No objection?
These are all been admitted. Is this a different picture?
This is a different picture.
Okay, go ahead.
Handing the witness what has now been admitted into evidence as State's Exhibit 52. Mr. King, you recognize that photo from when I showed it to you earlier?
Yes.
Okay. And did you recognize the box truck driving in the photo?
I do.
Okay. That was an accurate representation of your box truck?
Yes.
Your Honor, may I publish to the jury?
Okay.
Mr. King, do you see that date up in the corner, July 8th, 2022?
I do.
And the time at 6:57:41?
Yes.
On July 8th, 2022, at 6:57:41, where were you?
In Hattiesburg.
And zoom in. When I just had this up there with you, is that the box truck you're referring to as your box truck?
Yes.
And were you driving that box truck on that day?
I was not.
And who was the only other person that had keys?
Timothy Harrington.
And do you see Timothy Harrington sitting in the courtroom today?
I do.
Could you describe what he's wearing?
I was on a navy blue suit and a red and blue tie with a white shirt.
All right. So, record shall reflect the defendant has been identified by stipulation.
Brief indulgence. Your Honor, I turn to the witness.
Cross-examination? Okay.
Morning, Mr. King. How you doing?
I'm good. How about yourself?
Doing fine. I want to take you back to the time that you previously testified to around July the 8th. You testified that you were in Hattiesburg. Is that correct?
Correct.
Had you talked to Mr. Harrington that day?
On the 8th? No, I don't believe so.
What about on the 7th?
Yes.
What was the basis of that conversation?
We had done a previous move a couple of days prior, and they left some screws or something with us, and he texted me about the screws to try to return them to the person that we had moved.
Okay. Where were those screws located?
In the box truck.
And at that point in time, the box truck was parked where?
At the links?
That's where you live,
Correct.
at the time?
Correct.
Okay.
Where is it?
The links is an apartment complex here.
And I believe you testified a moment ago that, in regards to the box truck and how y'all acquired it, was that Mr. Harrington's grandfather purchased the box truck, correct?
Correct.
You reimbursed, Mr. Harrington's grandfather for your portion of the box truck.
Correct.
And testified that you and Mr. Harrington were the only two people that had keys to the box truck.
Correct.
Tell me a little bit about your usage of the box truck. Was this a primary vehicle or a secondary vehicle for you?
Secondary vehicle.
Were there ever any instances in which you relied on the box truck as your primary means of transportation?
I think it was February of 2022. I was in a car accident and I didn't have a car at the time, and I would, from time to time, use the box truck to get back and forth.
That's why you were a student at Ole Miss.
Correct.
So from February up until about what time frame was the box truck your primary means of transportation?
I wouldn't say it lasted long. Maybe,
Fair to say a couple months.
I'd say probably like more so a couple weeks to a month.
Okay, and when you were using that box truck as your primary means of transportation, you didn't notify Mr. Harrington every time you got in and out of the box truck to drive around.
I wouldn't say that I did.
Okay, and it's fair to say that Mr. Harrington wanted to use the box truck. He wouldn't have to necessarily notify you every time. Is that a fair statement?
You could say that.
Okay. Testified earlier that when DA's office showed you a picture of the box truck, that it was seized from you pretty forcibly. What do you mean by that?
Objection, Your Honor, to relevance.
I didn't hear the question anyway. It was,
You testified earlier that the box truck was taken from him pretty forcibly. I'm just trying to figure out what he means by that.
I'm gonna let him answer the question.
Do you recall that day when it was taken from you?
I do.
What happened on that day?
I was in the middle of a move and I received a couple of no caller ID phone calls. And once I answered those phone calls, it was what they told me were that they were detectives at the time. And I was bombarded with questions about where the truck was, and so at the time, I just told them that I wouldn't, have any problems answering any questions that they wanted to, but I wanted to, have a lawyer present. And maybe not even a minute after that phone call, I was surrounded by police, and they just came and took me out the truck, detained me, had me out in broad daylight about 30, 40 minutes, and it's the last time I saw the truck.
Objection, Your Honor, to relevance.
Without your objection for the record.
Brief indulgence, John. when you came in contact with law enforcement that day, they interviewed you, correct?
Correct.
Where did that take place?
I'm not sure exactly where it was, but it was like, I'm assuming like where they usually take people to interview them.
Back to yours and Mr. Harrington's moving business. Were you ever a part of any moves to Grenada or in the Grenada area with Mr. Harrington?
Yes.
And it'd be fair to say that you're familiar with Mr. Harrington's grandfather and his family and their rental properties that they had, correct?
Correct.
It'd be fair to say that if Mr. Harrington came and got the truck, took it to Grenada, were you ever involved in any of those trips other than moving trips?
Yes.
Doing work for his grandfather, things of that nature. You're involved in those things, correct?
Correct.
There were instances in which you weren't involved. Is that fair to say?
I would assume so.
Okay. Earlier, you testified what's the next exhibit? I must have this marked for identification.
Hey,
Mr. King, I'm going to hand you the document. Draw your attention to line 53 over here. And if you'll go over a few columns, do you recognize that phone number right there? Can you identify that number?
I don't know the number.
Well, let me ask you another question. Can you identify the number
Oh,
underneath that one? Right?
yes, that's my number.
Okay, and what is that phone number?
You want me to say my phone number?
Objection, Your Honor. He says he recognizes the number. I don't believe he should have to say his phone number out.
Oh, yeah, yeah, no problem. Okay. I'm going to draw your attention to,
I'm gonna ask it to the record, if you're not gonna, don't want to say his phone number, but give some kind of identifier around it anyway, so that the record will be clear as to what number we're talking about anyway.
the last four digits of that number, you recognize those as being your cell phone number, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And you recognize that message that was sent to you to that number?
Correct.
Okay. And what does that message say?
Says Emily need those screws tomorrow.
Okay. And the next entry would be a message from your phone number with those last digits being 6909.
Correct.
And what does that message say?
I left them at Love House. You're gonna have to go get them. I'm in Hattiesburg.
And is that referencing the conversation that you previously testified to that you, Mr. Harrington, had on the 7th
Correct.
of July 2022?
Correct.
Briefly go over, John. Let me ask you this question, Mr. King. In between July 8th and the date in which you were apprehended by Oxford Police Department, interviewed, did you and Mr. Harrington happen to go on, have any moves together?
You said together?
Yeah.
I believe we had one move together between
when
them.
that was?
I wouldn't tell you. I couldn't tell you an exact date, but I believe it was maybe a week before he was arrested.
Okay. So that would have been somewhere in between July the 12th and July the 20th, or excuse me, the 22nd, in that time period.
Yes.
Y'all remember talking about that move?
Talking about the move?
Scheduling it?
Yeah.
Y'all corresponded with each other about the move during that time frame?
Correct.
Correct. Nothing further, John.
All right. You may cross, you may redirect.
Mr. King, you mentioned that you lived at the Links. If you're at the time, that's an apartment complex,
Correct.
and it's located here in Oxford, Mississippi.
Yes, ma'am.
Where is it located?
If you're going towards Batesville, I've lived here so long and I still don't know the streets or the highways.
It's sort of like going back towards Bates.
Yeah, going towards Batesville, yeah.
Okay. And what about in relation to Walmart? Is it close to Walmart?
I would say it's probably like maybe 4 or 5 minutes from Walmart.
So it's about a 4 to 5 minute trip from the Links to Walmart, right?
Correct.
And at the time of this, before you went to Hattiesburg, the truck was parked at the Links, correct?
Correct.
On cross just now, you testified that you all could go get the truck without each other if you wanted to, right?
Correct.
Okay. And you didn't always tell each other when you were going to get the truck, right?
Can you rephrase that question?
Of course. If you needed the truck, did you always tell Tim Harrington that you needed the truck?
I would say more times than not.
And did he do that for you as well?
I would assume so.
But when it came to moves,
Oh,
did you all tell each other about the moves?
correct.
So if y'all had a move, you all would inform each other.
Correct.
Is that because you were business partners in this company together, the moving company?
Correct.
The box truck was seized from you. Would it be fair to say July 26th? Does that make it sound good? 2022?
It sounds right.
So, and earlier, you said you've never received it back, right?
I have not.
So between July 8th, which you said you all didn't have a move that day, and July 26th, did you have moves?
Yes.
Did you have multiple moves?
Yes.
And it was, that's the summer, right?
Correct.
So is that one of your busiest seasons?
It is. It's peak moving season.
This witness be finally excused.
Yes, Your Honor, by the same.
Thank you for being here, Mr. King. You're free to go, or you're welcome to stay. Whichever one you like, okay?
May I proceed, Your Honor?
You may proceed.
State your name for the record if you would,
Sheldon Timothy Harrington Sr.
and what is your relationship, if any, to the defendant Timothy Herrington?
Tim is my son.
Are you married?
I'm married.
What's your wife's name?
Tina Harrington.
You have any children other than Timmy?
Yes,
How many?
I have 4 other children.
What are their names?
Name is Kayla Harrington.
How old is she?
Kayla is 22. She'll be graduating this coming Friday.
Here at Ole Miss?
Nah,
Where?
Delta State.
Delta State. You have any other children?
I do.
All right, tell us who they are.
I have Jeremy Purnell. I also have Ebony and Dominique Brown.
And what are their ages?
Dominique is 32. Ebony is 30. And Jeremy is 25.
How old is Timmy right now?
Timmy, man, he was born in 2000, so he's 24.
And on July the 8th of 2022, Timmy living in Oxford at that time?
Objection to leading.
Was Timmy living in Oxford at that time?
Yes,
And how long had he been living in that apartment, you know, that particular apartment?
that particular apartment, at least I would say a year and a half, maybe 2 years.
Timmy recently, had he graduated recently?
He had recently graduated.
And you know what he got his degree in?
He got his degree in finance.
And during the course of his high school years, college years, did he maintain any type of employment, keep himself busy in any way, shape, form, or fashion, other than schooling?
Yes.
And describe to the jury what that was.
Timmy would go and do work with myself and his grandfather. He would also do going around and helping people move and do different things such as that.
And you stated that he did things for you and your grandfather. Would that be your father?
That would be my father,
What is his name?
James Timothy Harrington.
And you were employed at this time?
Yes, I am.
Where are you employed?
I'm employed with Brentwood Behavioral Health Care of Mississippi out of Jackson.
You got to lean towards the microphone.
Brentwood Behavioral Health Care of Mississippi out of Jackson, Flowood.
And what do you do there?
I'm a counselor.
And as far as you stated that Timmy worked for you and your father, in what capacity? Describe to the jury what type of work he did for both of y'all.
We have rental houses. My father has sets of rental houses, and I also have sets of rental houses.
How many rental houses, if you know, I don't ask you know exactly how many your father may have, but you have a pretty good idea how many he's got?
Dad has over 50 houses.
And how many do you have?
6.
6. Have you recently purchased any from him or made any purchases on any of his houses?
I've made a purchase on 2 of Dad's houses.
And you know, if you do, can you tell the jury when those occurred, those purchases occurred?
Those purchases occurred about 2 years ago on those 2.
Those rental houses, are they in the Grenada area?
They are.
Would you describe those 2 houses in relationship to the other houses in the Grenada area?
Okay. In the Grenada area, my houses that I purchased from him is downtown, going through closer to the courthouse. And the other house that I purchased for him is going to be going towards the school, Grenada School.
Now, you testified just a few moments ago that Timmy would do things for you and your father in rental property. What type of work did he do? What year did he start doing that? How old was he when he started doing that?
Well, Jimmie started doing work probably at 8 years old. As much as he could, go and follow us to do housing work. And that consisted of maybe cleaning, manual labor work, mostly. Fixing certain things around the rental property. We would be on top of roofs. We would be in the kitchens, fixing sinks, different other things such as that, but mostly manual labor kind of things.
That include, you said at 8 years old, he wasn't getting on the roof at 8 though, was he?
Well, if he needed to.
So over the course of the years, from the time that he was 8 up until July 22, did he maintain those responsibilities with your father and yourself?
He did.
Okay. Was it a situation where he was under constant supervision, or what? July the 8th of 2022, Jimmie's responsibilities with y'all, was it something that y'all had to constantly supervise him, or a situation where that he basically did his own thing?
Same objection. I'll let you answer. Go ahead.
We didn't have to supervise Jimmie at all. Basically, if there was something that needed to be done, he would go ahead and do it.
Would you inform him, or your father inform him, that if something needed to be done in a house, he'd go do it, didn't have to have supervision doing that task?
That's correct.
Now, included in those responsibilities, did Jimmie have responsibilities at the church?
Yes.
And what's the name of the church that your father was part of in Grenada?
Abundant Life Assembly.
Abundant Life. And where is it located in Grenada?
It's located 88 Cathy Drive. It's right there in the town of Grenada, right off the interstate. Matter of fact, it's maybe the first church that you get to coming into Grenada, coming from the post office.
And could you describe to the court and the jury what those responsibilities would have been there at the church as far as what Jimmie would have to do? Did those responsibilities also start early in life?
It did. By me being a musician, Jimmie was also a musician. He even taught classes at the church that he orchestrated himself. There were times when he also had to cut grass. We don't have a contractor to do that. Most of the time, I would get Tim and maybe several other young men, young boys rather, to cut the grass, to do certain lawn services and maintenance works around the church.
In addition to those responsibilities around the church and the rental houses, do you likewise do those things at y'all's home?
Yes.
Now, I want to direct your attention to July, round about the time of July the 22nd, 2022. Do you recall the facts and circumstances that gave rise as far as you being notified that Jimmie had been arrested?
Yes.
And did you, at any point in time, go or have an occasion to discuss the fact that you may need counsel?
Yes.
With anybody? And who was that?
That was Mr. Horan.
Okay. I don't go into the content of the conversation, but was there an occasion for us to meet at your residence anytime after Jimmie's arrest?
No.
Did we ever meet at your residence at all after
Never.
Jimmie's arrest?
Never.
Did we have conversations about your residence?
Conversation about the residents.
About your house?
Yes.
Okay. And did I give you any particular instructions of what to do as far as your residence and whether or not you need to cooperate with any authorities?
Yes.
Okay. And did you follow those instructions?
Yes, I did.
All right. This wheelbarrow right here, and these shovels, here are these shovels that are in the wheelbarrow. Can you recognize them, Mr. Harrington?
Yes, I do.
Okay, how do you recognize them?
Those are mine.
Now, do you recall the date that a search warrant was executed on your residence?
I do.
You remember what that date was?
That date was, I believe, the 26th of July.
Okay. Had you done anything to alter the character of the shovels or the wheelbarrow or any contents of the house in any way, shape, form, or fashion prior to the time that they executed the search warrant?
No.
You followed my directions?
To the point.
And does it appear that these are materially in the same condition that they were at the time that they executed that search warrant?
Yes.
Were there any other items that were at your home that you've seen a video of that were still at your home now?
Yes.
All right, let's talk about them a bit. I showed you a video of the UPS Timmy walking across parking lot going to the ATM on the 8th at the bank in Grenada. You saw that today, right?
I did.
Did you recognize the boots that he had on in that video?
I did.
And where are those boots now?
They're still in the same location.
And you followed my instructions as to any physical evidence down at your house. They're still there where they were the day after they left.
Still there.
As far as you cleaning or doing anything to these items that are introduced into evidence, did you do that after we talked on the phone?
No.
Do you recall whether or not between July the 8th and the 22nd, whether or not you had used any of these items in the yard at all?
No.
I'll turn to the witness.
Cross-examination?
Brief indulgence.
Okay.
Good afternoon.
You stated that on direct just now that Tim has been working for you since he was 8 years old.
Exactly.
So doing work, I think you said working on roofs.
Working on roofs, behind the house, in the house, just manual labor work.
Okay. In that work, has he had occasion to dig holes for you?
Occasionally, yeah.
And on July 8th, 2022, I know that we were kind of moving around it. Are you aware of if your son was doing work that day?
No.
So do you know what he was doing that day?
No.
So you're just saying that that's what it wasn't uncommon for him to move around and do work?
No, it was not uncommon for him.
Okay. And you stated that he was, I think y'all's church is Abundant Life?
Correct.
And it's in Grenada?
Correct.
Is that a very large church?
The building is, the membership's not.
Okay. And has Timothy been involved in that church since he was a child?
Since birth.
Okay. And your church, has Timothy ever brought church with him?
Sure.
Okay. Has he ever brought any boyfriends or relationships to church with him?
No.
And were you aware that Timothy had an interest in men?
No.
Today, are you aware that he has an interest in men?
By the proceedings, yes.
And so, back in 2022, were you aware that he had an interest in men?
Other than the reports that came out.
So after the reports came out is when you discovered that?
Yes.
So he was not open with you about that?
No.
Is that something that your church approves of?
Not necessarily the church approves of. I think that with that, people have their own opinions about it.
Brief indulgence. Attended the witness.
Redirect.
Harrington, you were asked about church community there in Grenada. Y'all had, if you had members that had family members that come to your attention, they may have gay members of their family.
Sure.
Objection, leading.
You went into it. You can answer the question.
Sure.
Treated them any differently than any
No
other?
differently.
And also, as far as Timmy, I assume you treated him like a father, like a son or a child, like you did all the other children.
Sure.
Had the same conversations with him about sexuality that you had with others, right?
Same.
Judge him if he would have told you you accepted him still as your son, if he'd told him that he was bisexual, if he'd told you he was bisexual? You still accept him and love him like you did your other children?
Sure.
As far as Timmy's reputation in Grenada for peacefulness, is it good?
Oh, objection, Your Honor. That's outside the scope.
She's out, she opened it up.
I think it's outside scope.
As far as Timmy's reputation, that she asked you about doing things, going to church and things like that, was he active in the community there in Grenada?
Very active.
Did he have gay friends? Do you know?
I'm not sure if he had gay friends. I'm not sure about that.
Witness him treating gay folks, gay people, or bisexual folks, or
Objection,
anybody?
Your Honor. Outside the scope. I
She
asked
asked about whether or not there was.
I think I'm gonna lay that.
Did you witness him at any time treat anybody that was that was gay or bisexual or anything along those lines? You ever witness him treat those individuals any different?
No.
No further questions.
Let me, was D-108 ever referenced in any way? You
Sorry?
had 108 marked, but it never had been referenced in any way, had it?
Not yet.
Okay, yeah, okay, all right. So you figure. May this witness be finally excused and may return to the courtroom?
He can
You can stay in the courtroom now if you want to, Mr. Harrington. All right.
Can I step out for just a second? You don't have to.
How long we been out here anyway?
Sir, they don't
What
have to.
time is it? Oh, you can step out for a
Just
second.
1 second.
Everybody good on the hearing? Let me know if you're not.
Mr. James Herrington.
James Harrington, you say? All right, James Harrington, please. a seat in the witness chair.
Now, Mr. John,
You may.
state your name if you would, please, sir.
James Timothy Herrington.
And what is your relationship, if any, to the defendant, Timothy Harrington?
Miss grandfather.
And where do you live, Mr. Harrington, right now?
15832 Highway 8 West, Grenada, Mississippi.
Is that in close proximity to any of your children? You live close to any of your children that live in Grenada?
Yes.
Who are those children? Who do you live close to?
Reginald, my youngest son, and my daughter Natalie.
What road do they live on?
Lincoln Road.
Lincoln Road. They live in houses next door to each other?
They do.
And if you were to leave your house and go to their house, go to Grenada, if you were going to Grenada, would you have to pass their house?
I left my house
Going to Grenada, would you pass Lincoln, the road that they live on?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So you're closer to town than they are. Is that right?
I am.
Okay. Are you familiar with a place called Abundant Life Church? You familiar with that place?
Very familiar with it. I'm the pastor.
You're the pastor. How long have you been pastoring there?
42 years.
And you know where Sheldon and Tina Harrington live? You know their address? Is it on Broad Meadow?
Yes, it's Broadway.
I'll hand you what's been marked for identification. It's D-108. You recognize this? If you would tell the jury what that porch is.
Okay. 121 Broadway Meadows Drive.
Does that appear to be the map for that location? Subdivision?
It is.
It fairly and accurately depicts, it's a Google map, fairly and accurately depicts the area in which they live. Just answer, is that the area in which they live?
That is there.
I move for introduction.
All right, you did it.
Mr. Harrington, do you go by, are you pastor, bishop, or preacher? What do they call you in town?
I answer to all of them.
Actually, all of them. What do people normally reference?
Bishop.
Bishop?
Yes.
Now tell me, if you would, are you pretty close to all your children and grandchildren there in Grenada?
Very close. Very
Close
close.
to 10.
Very close.
And did he at any point in time in his young life begin working for you in any capacity or doing anything for you there in Grenada?
He's worked for me ever since he's been big enough to do anything.
And did you tell the court and the jury the responsibilities from the early age on up until July 8th, 2022, what Timmy would do for you and members of the family?
Yes. I do a lot of rental property, and one of the main things Timmy would do, well, he would work with us in repairing rental properties, but mainly cleaning up around them, picking up material, trash and whatever. But that was his main job, to pick up behind those that did the work.
Did you do other things on your rental houses? Like in the summertime, did he have other responsibilities as well as cleaning up, keeping the property clean and good repair?
Yeah, he would have assignments to do pretty much whatever came up. From time to time, I would have him working with contractors, maybe putting on a roof, tearing out sewer, picking up scrap metal and other debris, and just whatever came up.
Did you tell the court and the jury generally the locations of the property? I know you have a lot of units, but locations of the property. Did you own property in Elliott, Mississippi during July of 2022?
Yes, on one property in the area at 212 Mississippi Avenue.
And did you own any property north of town?
Yes.
Remember how much property you owned north of town?
Yes, at one time I owned 2 properties out of Tardale Road, which is north of town. And I had another property south of town, south of Elliott in Duck Hill. All the other properties basically are in related city limits.
Did Jimmie have any responsibilities in addition to the rental properties at the church throughout the years? Did he do things at the church similar to the rental properties?
He
Cleaning
did.
up things of that nature?
Here.
How
So-
active was Jimmie in the church as far as activities within the church family?
Well, Tim is very active in the church. In fact, he was the lead guitar player. He played for the choirs, and he even played for the services. So he was there every week, sometime twice a week.
Now, you've identified the map as being the area of DO8, being in the area subdivision out there at Glenmont, correct?
But
Now, if Jimmie were to go to any of your property that was located south of Glenbrook, that he would have, the property in Elliott would be south of Glenbrook, correct?
that's correct.
Portland, don't you? Bishop, the location there where Tina and Sheldon live, did Jimmie also live there during the time frame of July the 8th, 2022, come and go, to your knowledge?
He did.
Sustain the objection.
Are you familiar with the fact that Jimmie came back and forth from Oxford to Grenada?
All the time.
Were there occasions where you saw him, did you ever see him in the box truck during that time frame?
I did.
Just actually didn't see him.
That's not on that one.
You recall the time when Jimmie got arrested in July of 2022, correct? And were you, at that time, was Jimmie carrying on the same responsibilities as far as prior to his arrest that you described as far as rental houses and the church and responsibilities at that time? Was he doing the same things since he'd been doing time before that?
He was.
Did you at any time, was it a situation where you talked to Jimmie on a regular basis about what he needed to do?
I did.
And did you have to give him details of stuff, or he basically do it on his own?
Most I would give him assignments to do. Sometimes I would give him 2 or 3 at a time, and he would do them on his time.
Told him what needed to be done, he did it on his time. That's all I have now.
Cross-examination?
So, if I understand correctly, if you needed anything done on your rental properties, you would let Tim know. If you needed anything done at the rental properties, you would let Tim know. You would communicate, it's your testimony, with him. Is that correct?
You said when I didn't have anything done.
I'm sorry?
You said when I have anything done.
If you needed anything done at the rental properties, your testimony was that you would communicate with him what needed to be done. Correct?
You said when I have anything done. I had a lot of things to be done. Many times I had contractors to do the work.
Yeah. You've got 50 rental properties.
Yes.
And sometimes the commode would go out, or sometimes you would need debris cleaned up if a renter moves out, things of that nature?
Timmy didn't do things like that. He's not a contractor.
Okay, he's on contract.
He's not a contractor.
He's not your, what do you mean by that?
He didn't do repair work by himself.
Oh, okay.
He's not a contractor. I said he would do picking up material, he would clean up. Sometimes he might work alongside a contractor.
Did you just tell the jury that if anything needed to be done by Timmy on the rental property, that you would communicate with him and let him know? I'm not trying to trick you, I'm just trying to remind you of what you told the jury. Is that correct?
That's correct. That's correct.
Okay. Now, during July of 2022, Timmy was living in Oxford, right?
Yes.
Okay. Did you have Timmy's telephone number?
Always had his telephone number.
Okay. And if he wasn't in Grenada, would it be your method of communicating to him what was needed to be done to use that number?
I didn't usually call him on a number and give him assignments. Usually when he was in Grenada, I would tell him the different things that I'd like to see him get done.
Now, July 22nd, 2022, Oxford Police Department takes Tim Harrington into custody. Do you remember that?
Yes.
Okay. Do you remember investigators approaching you for any information that may be relevant to that time period or relevant to the disappearance and death of Jay Lee?
Yes, I remember.
Do you remember not giving them any information whatsoever?
I do.
Okay. Do you remember being called, subpoenaed as a witness to the grand jury proceedings? Isn't it true that when you were called to provide testimony about the time period of July 8th to July 22nd involving the disappearance and death of Jay Lee, that you took the 5th? You took the 5th. You said, I'm not going to provide any information to that body. Is that correct?
I didn't have any information to provide.
You didn't have any information, right? Because you don't have any personal knowledge of what Tim Harrington was doing on July 8th, 2022.
No.
And you don't have any personal information or personal knowledge about whether Tim Harrington provided truthful information to law enforcement on July 22nd, 2022.
Yeah.
I represent to you that Quentin Jeremiah Love represented that his relationship with Tim Harrington.
I'm gonna let her hear the question first anyway.
That he testified that his relationship with Tim Harrington was close, like brothers. Do you know that to be true?
Sure.
Okay. Now he has described that he has seen Tim Herrington with girlfriends. Girlfriends.
I knew that.
He has testified that he has seen Tim Herrington with girlfriends in the past.
Say that again.
Mr. Love has testified to this jury that he has seen Tim Herrington with girlfriends in the past.
Girlfriends.
Girlfriends.
I still don't hear that word. I don't hear the best.
What do you not understand?
I said I don't hear the best. I don't understand.
Oh, okay.
I don't understand what you're saying.
Have you ever known Tim Herrington to have girlfriends?
Yeah, what?
Have you ever known your grandson to have girlfriends?
I've seen him talk to girls, yes.
Okay. Have you ever known him to be interested in men?
No.
Okay. That's all I have.
Where you at? Oh, yeah.
Mr. Bishop, did Tim act independently of y'all's conversations, keeping up with the affairs that you had told him to do over the years? Did he have to have instructions?
Hang on a second, hang on a second,
He opened it up.
hang on a second. What's the objection?
Did,
Rephrase your objection.
did Tim act independently of you and his responsibilities that you gave him?
Ask him how he acted rather than,
How did he carry out his responsibilities? Did he need direction from you?
Ask and answer, Your Honor, covered on direct and cross.
I'm gonna let him ask it.
Yes, he did carry out his, my instructions in the gun. I would give him several instructions, and he would do it on his time.
Whenever he got time to do it? Was it necessary for you to call him on a regular basis for him to carry out those responsibilities? Now, Bishop, did you really ever have any conversations with Timmy about his sexuality at all?
No.
Thank you.
May his witness be finally excused. Mr. Harrington, you're free to go. You're welcome to stay in the courtroom, whichever one you'd like to do, okay?
The defendant rest.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, let me ask this. State gonna have any rebuttal? I'll give you a minute to think about it. I want y'all, I got some more business I gotta do. Don't go far, and I'll get some more clarity. Go to the jury room this time. Don't form or express any opinions. Don't talk about the case. Is that door closed? All right, it is now. Mr. Harrington, I'm going to direct these comments to you again. If you'll recall at the break not long ago, I advised you that you had the right to testify in this case if you wanted to. If you do choose to testify, you'll be subject to cross-examination. If you choose not to testify, the jury will be instructed the fact that you chose not to testify could not be used as any evidence of that you were guilty of any crime. I asked you at that time to be consulting with your attorneys and for you to make a decision. It would be your personal decision. It would not be your attorney's decisions, but your decision about whether you wish to testify or not testify. Have you had an opportunity to consult with your attorneys about that issue? Have you reached a decision about the decision whether you wish to testify in this case or wish not to testify? What is that decision? Okay, and you've consulted with your attorneys in that regard? That your understanding, Mr. Horan, as well?
That's correct.
All right. And at this time, the defense is rested. Is that correct?
That's correct.
All right, where are you right there?
In front of Timothy Harrington's apartment.
All right, you knocked on the door? All right, announced your presence?
Yes.
All right. Now, you've already detailed sort of your background understanding of what your investigation showed.
Yes, sir.
At this point, does Tim Harrington know what you know about the case?
He doesn't know what I know about the case now.
All right, I'm going to stop it right there. Can you identify the person in the dark colored muscle shirt?
Yes, that's Tim Harrington.
All right, and then the other person in that image is who?
Myself.
All right, now it appears that this is being recorded by a body cam,
Yes, sir.
and who's wearing that body cam?
Detective Ryan Baker.
All right. I just want to inquire from the court, is that audio, are
Not
you
the
able,
best.
are you able to hear that?
I can, but, more important
Make
question,
sure.
more important question, can the jury hear it anyway? Y'all hear it?
We good?
It's a little muffled, I guess, would be a good way to,
I do believe the audio system here is better, so if it becomes a problem, if the court wants to allow.
I'm on you listening, I'm gonna let you make your own decisions about where you play it anyway, okay?
Okay.
What's that now?
This one screen's not working.
We got one screen that's not working. Let's try to get that going before we continue. Yep. We got one screen that's not working anyway. Working now? Well, that's all we're worried about now. All right, thank you. I'm gonna let you make your own decisions about where you wish to play it at, okay?
So you're going in the, did you identify why you were there, the purpose for talking to Tim Harrington?
Yes, sir.
And what was that?
We wanted to see if Tim Harrington could provide us with any information related to the J. Lee.
Missing person?
Yes.
And had you been doing that in the area?
Oh, yes, we've been, around the city talking in different, apartment complexes and
We were cool, like, like, I would say we were like best friends, or we were like, no, sir, I haven't heard anything since. It's been a minute. I know, like, since he's been gone, I haven't heard anything. Before he was gone.
All right. At that point, at 4:38, was that statement from Tim Harrington important to you?
it was.
What did he say?
He said he ain't seen him since he's been gone.
All right. Since he's been gone. Okay. And before he said, since he's been gone, what did he say?
So you ask your question again?
What did he say right before that?
I do not recall, sir.
All right, let's back it up. Just a few seconds.
No, sir, I haven't heard anything since. It's been a minute. I know, like, since he's been gone, I haven't heard anything.
Since he's been gone, I haven't heard anything.
Yes.
Before he was gone, what's the last time we got that night,
All right. Had you, at this point, told him anything about a date that Jay Lee went missing?
No, he just, no dates.
And so right there, just before 4:44, I'm going to replay that. His statement there about since he's been gone and at this point, does that indicate to you that he knows when he went missing?
I abstain the objection.
I know, like, since he's been gone, I haven't heard anything. So, before he was gone, what's the last time we got that night, I'm not sure what night it was, but it was like,
He wasn't sure of the date, according to him at that time, but he did say that night.
That night, he specified that night.
I'll sustain the objection. Don't leave your witness.
Was he sure about the exact date here on the interview, according to him?
He said that night.
Okay.
I would say a couple of weeks ago, I'm not sure exactly. Nah, we were at least he came out and stopped by. Right now, the people are talking to either school people want something or old friends, other people in class. So
gonna stop it there. What he's talking about is that night. And that's gonna be when the day that Jay Lee went missing, correct?
Yes, sir.
Had he said anything to you at this point about?
I'm gonna let him ask his question. Go ahead.
At this point, had Tim Harrington said anything about an early morning encounter with Jay Lee
No, sir. All he kept saying was that night.
that night? Had Tim Harrington said anything about having Snapchat messages with Jay Lee in the early morning hours?
No, sir, he did not.
But I know that I've been in some movement, like with my son and stuff, and doing like that. Do you hear calls and all our trails? Yes, I do. Yeah, I heard that. You have any theory that you don't think on how to call it on our trails? I personally don't. I don't know. Like I said, like we were cool, but it wasn't like I think I was perfect. Like that was kind of pride. He was a private person. Well, when you figure out how some of the things he did, it sounded like very likely to be dressed as a stigma. Right, yeah.
All right. Now, right there, what information had you provided that you knew about your investigation?
That the vehicle had been found at Molly Bar Trails, and Mr. Jay Lee liked to dress as a female.
So going back to the car, what was the question that you asked?
Did he have any gut feeling on how that car ended up at Molly Bar Trails?
And his response was what?
No.
All right. And even though he said no, he doesn't have any idea, what did you know about Tim Harrington and Molly Bar Trails?
I knew that Tim Harrington ran out of Molly Bar Trails the morning of the 8th and went down to Rockets and got picked up by Josiah Carter and taken back, so I knew Tim Harrington was at Molly Bar Trails.
Okay.
Yeah, we were just cool, like me, like I was just confused. It's like, I see everybody say, like, everybody, like, thinks like me, cool person. So I can relate to a lot, and I can relate to, like everybody. Yeah, that's just the first man, I got straight open, I can relate to a lot, of people that open, talking about gossip. So, nah, I feel like we got to say my shit out of me. I want to be like, oh, you know, like, I want to be like, so you're talking about that body job that came over here. Yeah. How was that conversation there? Like, how did you before that? How did you know your home? How did you know, like I said, everybody knows that we're so loud. They provide, like, we do everything to do some stuff like that. So, like, you know.
All right. Prior to getting into how did you know he was going to come over, did you inquire as to whether he had, I mean, he agreed that he knew that he liked to dress fashionably.
Yes, sir.
Did you, what was his response to whether they had a more than just an acquaintance, friendship relationship?
He said he did not have any kind of sexual relationship with him.
All right. At this time, did you indicate to him that you knew what their messages were about on Snapchat? Okay.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I guess I was early, and so I stopped like, what was that? Walk around, go back, or do like a long run. I was earlier in the day, 5:30 or so. Okay, so
All right. What were y'all talking about here?
We were talking about where Jay Lee, if Tim did anything, where they met at, or how Jay Lee knew Tim was home, and how he could make. Did Jay Lee reach out to him and call him, or reach out any kind of other any kind of electronic device to know Tim was home? And he said he met Jay Lee earlier at either Walmart or Home Depot.
All right, sounds good.
So yeah, I saw him, and he was like, you know, I got you to give up a lot. I was cool, you know, we shot out, and I appreciate it. You know anybody on the call? No, sir. Other than like I was mentioning, I mean, that's like the outside of the house, and dealing with like mom, and it's all there, so I can go.
All right. Right there, if you were able to hear, y'all are talking about what?
Molly Bar Trails.
All right. Now, what was significant about his response?
He said Tim Harrington said he doesn't go over there much because they tow from over there.
Okay.
To me, that was significant because he knows the towing practices of that business and that complex.
All right. Was that additional information that he provided significant to you about Molly Bar Trails?
Oh, absolutely. Tim Harrington said he ain't been over there in a few months, but we were able to find video of him running out of the complex that morning on July 8th.
All right. Why was that important information to you right there? You saw him, he leaves, but he doesn't come back.
Yes. Asking Tim if he saw Jay Lee, which he said he did. He leaves, which Tim said he did. He doesn't come back, according to Tim. It was very important because Khalid Fears already knew that he came back over there. He was going to meet somebody that had previously blocked him on some social device, and he was going back to meet somebody that he had met earlier in the night.
All right, and in canvassing people that were associated with Jay Lee, would you ask a question like, hey,
Being a witness, would you ask questions like this and that? I mean,
I'm going to ask you to rephrase your questions. I don't know exactly what it was going to be, so.
started out as a leading question.
Yes, started out that way. I bet it's going to end that way.
the questions that you were asking Tim, some are specific to information you know. Are some of the questions the same type of question you would ask other people?
Absolutely. Do you know Tim? Have you seen, do you know Jay Lee? Have you seen him anytime since July 8th? Those are standard questions that we would ask anybody trying to ascertain any information we can about where Jay Lee is.
Was one of those questions that you would ask, what do you think happened to him?
Absolutely. I think that's a very important question because everybody has a different opinion or thought or may know something. And we want to know what that is by asking, what do you think happened to someone? It may point us in a direction that leads us somewhere else. And hopefully what we were hoping for is the discovery of Jay Lee.
I don't know. You said that dude, yeah, was saying he was like, out of there. I don't know, he just like went in and had sex with somebody that he never went to. That could be, another could be, I don't know, like, personal.
All right. Did you hear his response to that question?
Yes, based on what you had told me, I'm not going to get it exactly word for word here, could have went and had casual sex with somebody and they kidnapped him.
Okay. When you were canvassing, did anybody else have a response like that?
No, sir.
Was that significant to you?
Absolutely it was.
Why?
Looking at that statement after we interviewed Tim, not only at his apartment, but at CID later on, and after we continued with the investigation, I think what happened is Tim described what he did to Jay Lee.
May I proceed?
You may.
Tell the jury who you are.
My name is Leslie Christian. I have been employed with Renaissance Bank for 24 years, and I am currently the financial crime supervisor.
Okay. So you work for Renaissance Bank. Do you work in Tupelo?
I do.
Okay. Do you have a Renaissance branch bank in Grenada?
Yes, we actually have two.
Is that on Commerce Street?
It is.
What's the address there?
1537.
1537 Commerce Street. Now, at that location, is there an ATM?
Yes, there is.
Does that ATM have a video recorder?
Yes, it does.
Now, I want to direct your attention back to July 8th of 2022. Around that time frame, summer of 2022, did law enforcement come looking for video surveillance from that branch bank at 1537 Commerce Street in Grenada?
That is correct. We received a subpoena.
All right. Did you respond to that?
I did.
Did you pull the footage from that ATM?
I did.
All right. May I approach?
Okay.
Have this marked for identification.
Your Honor, we don't have a problem with it being admitted, with the court noting our previous objections.
All right.
It's no relevance at this point in time, and also other objections.
Do
Other
it.
objections prior,
Okay, prior objection.
and the objections are relevant at this time.
All right. Okay. That's going to be a thumb drive. All right, the S44 will be admitted.
I believe what we're going to do is just put a frame of that exhibit up, and I think you'll be able to see it on the monitor. While he's doing that, the contents of that jump drive, have you reviewed that?
Yes, I have.
Is that the same surveillance video that you provided law enforcement?
Yes, it is.
Back in 2022?
Yes.
Now, the duration or length of that clip that you provided, was that about 1 minute and 3 seconds?
Yes, it was.
All right. All right, can you see the image
Yes.
on your monitor? Now I'm going to direct your attention to the timestamp. Was that date and timestamp accurate?
Yes, it was.
All right, so where it says, it's got 2022 first, referring to the year, correct?
Correct.
And then the date would be 7/8,
Right.
which is July the 8th.
Right.
Is that correct?
That is correct.
And then the time stamp on it is 18:55 and 14 seconds.
Correct.
Is that correct?
That is correct.
All right. With that, looking at that time, would that be AM or PM?
This would be military time, so this would be 6:55 p.m.
6:55 PM is the correct time.
Correct.
Was the date and time accurate?
Yes, it directly matched to a transaction that we were able to find a record of.
You need to hear the response. Was the time and date accurate?
Yes, it was.
All right. Is the time and date on that exhibit accurate now?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Tender the witness, Your Honor.
Any cross-examination?
No problem.
The shortest witness we have this year, yesterday, anyway. Thank you for being here. Have a safe trip.
Absolutely. Thank
Then
you.
this witness is free to go. You're free to go. Thank you. Who would you call as your next witness?
Say we call Dana Hood.
Who?
Dana Hood.
Dana Hood. Somebody, get Dana Hood.
May I proceed?
You may.
Tell the jury who you are.
My name is Dana Hood, and I'm the office manager of Family Time Cleaners.
Okay. Back in 2022, was that cleaners, RNS cleaners?
Yes, it was.
All right. So when did the name change?
I believe it was April of 23.
And that microphone is far away from you.
But for,
If you don't mind, is that okay?
so,
All right. So when did the name change from RNS cleaners to, what did you say?
Family Time Cleaners.
Okay,
I
Family
believe
Time
it was April of 23.
But back in July of 2022, it was RNS cleaners, correct? All right. And what is RS cleaners
A dry cleaning business
in Grenada?
in Grenada.
What is the address?
1793 Commerce Street.
1793 Commerce.
Commerce Street, Grenada.
All right. Now, what do y'all do?
We launder clothes and all kinds of items.
Is it like dry cleaning?
Dry cleaning, yes.
Now, back in October of this year, did law enforcement come looking for a video that was provided by R&S Cleaners back in 2022?
Yes, they came and
Did you review that video at the time?
I did.
And did you provide a certificate of authenticity to that video?
I did.
All right. Now then, if I can have this marked for ID.
If it's 45.
All right, I'm going to hand you what's been marked for ID as Exhibit 45. Have you reviewed the contents of that? Is that the same video that back in October when you authenticated it accurately depict what you authenticated back in October?
Yes.
All right. And did you review that exhibit this morning?
I did.
And verify that it was the same video?
I did.
All right. Now then, when you did that, you signed and dated it, correct?
That's correct.
All right. Now, can you tell the jury whether whether you reviewed the timestamp and date of that
I did.
video?
It was correct.
Was that accurate?
It was accurate.
Can you tell the jury how you determined that it was accurate?
It's on the camera footage, it's time-stamped, and on the receipt that we printed out when the customer brought the clothes in is also time-stamped.
They were consistent. Did you look to see whether there had been any issues with the receipt system and the surveillance system? Whether
There were no issues.
No issues with it whatsoever. And the system that you have now, is it the same?
It is.
And is it accurate today?
It is.
All right. Your Honor, at this time, the state would ask that that be received into evidence.
No objection,
All
other
right.
than the ones previously
All right.
stated.
It'll be S45 will be admitted.
Court's indulgence. The receipt that you used to verify the accuracy of the video surveillance, do you have that with you today?
I do. She has it.
I've got a copy of it.
You've got a copy of it?
If you want me to use it.
All right.
Got another one coming there behind if you need it.
Let's have this marked for ID. Well,
That's why I have it here. You gonna do that as a
fixed our window shades last night. They look really good this morning anyway. I just want you to know that, here, I'm glad to have that in the courtroom anyway. You've done a really good job, and I'm gonna commend you on it.
Yes, I mean, you want to do all these pages?
Yes, sir. Collective. It's the entire,
You know, by the page, I'm gonna number the pages, it's confusion, I did yesterday.
What'd y'all eat last night? Well, you tell us too. I guess a better question, rather than the old audit, where did yours get sent to eat last night? Yeah. Turn out okay? Y'all may volunteer to do your duty. I'll put the bet on it. Y'all coming along here, guys?
Right there.
Creekmore, while you're standing there looking at yourself, how about playing this, Mr. Creekmore? Could you pass this down to Kathy so it won't get lost? Thank you.
while he's reviewing that, Ms.
For
I'm
the
sorry.
record, I marked on the bottom down there the pages, so we don't have any confusion on the exhibit. He's gonna mark the next number. All right.
It is, that's what's gonna be the next numbered exhibits. Hadn't been marked at this time, has it? It hadn't been ID'd at this time, has it?
It has not.
Mr. Creekmore, you're gonna be asking this document to be marked.
I'm sorry,
This document here, you can ask it to be marked.
Yes, sir.
Let's go ahead and get that on the road then. That's gonna be S-46.
That's why I needed her up here today.
Are y'all looking at, the jury's looking at this, well, this has been introduced into evidence, I guess, but, it's been displayed, if that's what you're asking.
Yeah, the video being displayed has
It's already been
received.
received.
Okay, just making sure.
Mark it, received.
It has, set 45 has been admitted anyway.
You got this one received. All right, Ms. Hood, if you'll look on your screen, do you see the image displayed? Is that from your business
Yes,
there
it
in
is.
Grenada? And you were able to identify the date, 7/8/22, 9/29/40, is that AM?
AM, yes.
AM? And you were able to determine that that was correct time
That's
and
right.
date? All right. Now then, I would ask that Exhibit 46 be received into evidence.
No problem.
All right,
8 pages, I think, Mr. Freeman. Make sure.
somebody tell me what that is, I'm gonna receive it, so I'll make my notes here.
It's the invoice records from the transaction,
Invoice records from the cleaners.
Tim Herrington.
Okay.
Seven pages. Kevin, Mr. O'Ryan. Seven.
7
All right, I'm going to hand you Exhibit 46. Do you recognize that as transaction records from transaction from that day at your cleaners?
That's correct.
All right, that's not the original receipt though, is it?
No, this is just a copy from,
But you
Here.
printed that out recently?
I did.
And it has the new name of the business at the top?
That's right.
But it's the same system,
Same system.
okay? And you still had those records from this transaction on July 8th, 2022?
This is the actual transaction from July 8th, 2022.
Okay. And can you state that that's, the time on that receipt is consistent with this video?
Yes.
Court's involved. Ms. Hood, other than law enforcement coming to request any records from any transactions from July 8th, 2022, has anybody else asked you about those records from that day?
No.
Okay. Has anybody come to you and asked you for records from that transaction? Or about
Yes,
that transaction?
actually, I received a phone call from Mr. Harrington asking for a copy of the receipt. Okay. I received a phone call from Mr. Harrington asking for a copy of the receipt.
Okay.
And so I left it at the front so he could pick it up, this exact receipt,
Okay.
well, copy of the receipt.
Okay.
And then the next day, his mother came in and wanted a copy of the receipt. So I gave her the exact same thing. And she said, well, I was hoping it would be more detailed and show that it was a suit. And I explained to her that this is all we could produce, and that's all the computer would do.
Did she ask you to alter or change it?
No.
Okay. Tend to the witness, Sean.
Yes, ma'am, Ms. Hood, that's an active account, though, at that time. It's not, that wasn't just a unique, that Timmy Herrington had an account there.
He did.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Can you redirect? This witness be finally excused? Thank you for being here, Ms. Hood. You're free to go.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome to stay with us. I'm going to choose not to, but you're welcome to if you like, or you can go to your day. You have a good, safe trip home, okay? Who would you call this next week? Everybody good over there?
Christopher Clint.
Christopher Clint?
Christopher Clint. K-L-I-N-C-K.
Come around, Mr. Clint. Put the face of the court reporter there. Raise your right hand and be sworn in, please. I come right around here and have a seat in the witness chair there.
Just be on standby.
Okay.
Okay, proceed.
Yes, Your Honor, thank you. Tell the jury who you are.
Thomas Christopher Clink,
All right, and where do you live, Mr. Clink?
140 Broadmeadow Drive, Grenada, Mississippi.
All right. Now, where you live across the street, your neighbor who lives directly across from you.
The Harringtons.
Okay. Now, do you know Tim Herrington?
Yes.
Do you see him in the courtroom today?
Yes, sir.
All right. Is it, living across the street, when you say the Harringtons, are you talking about that's his mother and daddy's house?
Yes, sir.
All right. Did Tim Herrington visit there frequently in the summer of 2022?
Yes.
Okay. Did you know you've already stated you know who Tim Herrington is, but if you saw him, you would recognize him, correct?
Yes.
All right. Now, does your home have a video surveillance system?
Yes.
All right. And back in July of 2022, did you have a home video surveillance system?
Yes.
All right. Now, where is that camera oriented? What kind of angle or picture would it be designed or placed to get? What is the view of that camera?
The front of our house.
All right. Does it capture the yard and driveway to a certain extent of the Herrington home?
A little bit, to a certain extent.
All right. Now, back in July of 2022, was the date correct on your system?
I believe so.
All right. And what about the timing?
It was off.
Okay.
Your
Now,
Honor, I know we're catered to this, but I just want to make sure, I think I procedurally have to object on the relevance of every witness.
I understand objection, in relation to prior objections, the court has ruled on this. Note you have a continued objection, this all is not objection.
Thank you.
I'm going to hand you what's been marked as Exhibit 47 for ID. You recognize the image depicted in that exhibit?
Yes.
How do you recognize that?
I'll recognize it by our yard, our driveway, my son's truck.
Do you remember, were you present when that document was created?
Yes.
All right.
No objection.
All right. Stay would ask to be.
This mark first, right?
It's marked.
This 47.
Yes. All right. That's 47. I'm going to display it on the screen. Got it changed to
Yeah, it should be on that.
document. Kind of a blur on it. All right, is that image being displayed on your screen? All right, Exhibit 47. Now, this first cell phone right here, it's got a date on it of August 5th, 2022. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
All right, and the image being displayed on that cell phone is from is that a live feed of your video surveillance home security system?
Is that picture a live feed or is
Was
it
it a live
always?
feed at the time that this was created?
I believe so. Yes.
Yes.
Yes, it is.
All right, and whose phone is it on top of? The one that says 650?
I don't recall, honestly.
Was it depicting the current time at the time?
Yes,
Was it depicting the current time at the time that this document was created?
yes, sir.
Was that time 650 accurate?
Yes, sir.
All right. So was this created to show the time difference
Yes, sir.
in order to arrive at the correct time for your videos, your home surveillance system, correct?
Correct.
All right. And that was done because law enforcement came out to find the correct time for your home surveillance system, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. Now, prior to that, had law enforcement come to your home to gather video footage going back to July 8th, 2022?
Yes, sir.
Did you provide that to law enforcement?
They had a warrant, yes, sir, so I provided it.
They had a search warrant?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Going to hand you Exhibit 48. Do you recognize that exhibit?
Yes, sir.
And if you don't mind speaking to that mic.
Yes, sir.
All right. And did you examine the contents of that exhibit?
Yes.
Did they accurately depict what you provided law enforcement in 2022 pursuant to that search warrant for your home surveillance system?
Yes.
All right. Your Honor, I would ask that this be received.
Sure.
All right, that's gonna be S-48. Is that correct?
Yes.
You need it.
All right, if you'll just pull up that first clip. Scheme. Of this system. Now, on that exhibit, were there 8 different times that files were created? Approximately.
Approximately.
There was more than one, correct?
Yes.
More than 5,
Yes.
less than 10?
If these are them right here, there's 2, 4, 6, 8, maybe 9. Yes.
And we're just going to take them one at a time. We're going to display a still shot and just see if you recognize it, okay?
Okay.
Go to 9:26:47. All right. Looking at that, that particular spot on that video surveillance, the time stamp right there is 9:26:46. Do you see that?
Yes.
In order for you to arrive at the correct time, you would have to make a calculation based on this exhibit in 47, correct?
Yes.
To get the accurate time.
Correct.
Okay. But the date, July 8th, 2022, that's accurate.
I believe so.
Was it accurate then? The date?
I'm pretty sure it is.
I'm going to ask you to look at Exhibit 47. Is that the exact difference between your live feed of your home video surveillance and the current time at the time this exhibit was created?
Yes, sir.
So if you take that difference and apply it to here, would that date on that exhibit be July 8th, 2022?
Yes.
Is that true with all the other clips as well?
Yes.
And you've reviewed every clip on this exhibit, correct?
Before I came in, I think we reviewed most of them. I don't know if I reviewed every
We'll
one
go
of
through
them.
each one. Let's go to the second one. Let's do it time. All right, if you pause it. Now this second clip, do you see how it's been zoomed in? And
Yes.
it doesn't have a date or time, does it?
No.
All right. But do you recognize the front yard there in the bottom right portion of the image that's being displayed on the second video file?
Yes.
Whose yard is that?
The Harringtons.
And do you see that box truck across the street?
Yes.
All right. Is that parked in the on the curb by the front yard of the Herrington home?
Yes.
All right. Let's go to the third clip. I think that one's trimmed down too. All right. Do we have a date? All right, pause. Same question. You recognize that front yard, the driveway, the truck? Whose truck is that? The white truck parked in in the driveway.
That's my son's truck.
Okay. All right. And that too is on July 8th, 2022.
Yes.
And you would have to make the same adjustment to arrive at the correct time based on Exhibit 47. And I submit to you that on that, looking at Exhibit 47, your home surveillance system image being projected, it says 542, does it not?
Yes, sir. Yes.
And the phone underneath it says 650, correct?
Yes.
All right, so that's going to be a difference of basically an hour and 8 minutes.
Yes.
So looking back at the time frame on exhibit, the third file on exhibit 48, you'd have to adjust that by an hour and 8 minutes to arrive at the correct time. But the date, 7/8/2022 is correct.
Yes.
All right, let's go to 4. And 9:38. All right. Same question, do you recognize that?
Yes.
Did you provide this image to law enforcement pursuant to the search warrant?
Yes.
And the date on that is correct and accurate? And the time would have to be adjusted based on the differential in Exhibit 47, correct?
Correct.
All right. Let's go to the 5th clip. Let's go to 632. All right. Looking at the image on the 5th clip, your system says 7/8/2022. Is that accurate? All right. And then over there it says 1832. Is that military time
Yes.
on your home surveillance system? All right. But you would have to make the adjustment to arrive at the correct time based on the differential in Exhibit 47.
Yes.
Correct? All right. And does that accurately depict what you provided to law enforcement pursuant to the search warrant?
Yes.
All right. Let's go to the 6th clip. Let's go to 1927. Pause. All right, looking at the date on the image being depicted from the 6th clip, the date on that, July 8th, 2022, is that accurate?
Yes.
All right, the time over here is 1927. To arrive at the accurate time on that clip, you would have to make the adjustment based on the differential in Exhibit 47, correct?
Correct.
And does that accurately depict the video you provided to law enforcement pursuant to the search warrant?
Yes.
All right. Let's go to clip 7. I've got 17. I think it's down here. All right. Now looking at the image projected on your screen on the 7th clip, the date on there, July 8th, 2022, is that accurate?
Yes.
All right, and the 2018 mark, that's military time based on your home surveillance system, correct?
Correct.
But to arrive at the correct time, you would have to make an adjustment based on the differential in Exhibit 47, correct?
Correct.
All right. The last image on that exhibit pause it right there. Looking at the image projected on your screen, the date, July 8th, 2022, is that accurate?
Yes.
All right, and the time, 13:59, military time. So it would be, I guess, saying, was that 1 o'clock? 1:59? But to arrive at the correct time, you would have to make an adjustment based on the differential in Exhibit 47, correct?
Correct.
And does that accurately depict a video surveillance file that you provided to law enforcement from your home video surveillance system pursuant to the search warrant.
Yes.
Court's indulgence. All right. Thank you, Chair. Yes, sir. All right. Now, you stated that you know the Harringtons, correct?
Yes.
All right. In fact, don't you work for the Harringtons?
I work for Grenada School District.
Is Miss Harrington your boss?
Somewhat, yes.
Okay. Is it fair to say they're a well-known family in Grenada?
Yes.
All right. Tender the witness, Sheldon.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Mr. Clint, so we're perfectly clear, when they came to your house and got the video surveillance off of your, that's basically a ring camera, correct? Is it a fair statement that from the first time stamp that counsel for the state identified the earliest time in the morning, they took your entire video of that whole day, even though he provided 5 snippets, they took all of that until the latest date that he's identified in the exhibits. Fair statement?
Yes.
Okay. So you've got the entire day, and you've at some point in time viewed that entire video whenever you looked at it and watched it while they were downloading, correct? Back and forth. I know you weren't standing there by it.
Back and forth.
At the time they downloaded it, you started it, watched some of it, looked at, viewed it to make sure it was operating correctly, right? All that stuff, correct?
Correct.
All right. Would it be a fair statement during a large portion of that video, while the box truck was parked out in front of the Herrington house, there were people riding bikes up and down the street, people walking down the street, things of that nature? Do you remember that?
I can't recall that.
I mean,
to be
but you
honest.
remember y'all had someone working in your yard, and I think your son went outside, was doing some yard work with the individual at your yard, correct?
Yes, I do remember that.
If asked and answered, he said he didn't know, then he started testifying for him.
That's cross-examination, right?
He's on cross, I'm gonna give you some leeway.
You recall seeing on the videotape, your son out in the yard and the individual in the hat. Who was that? The guy
That
in the hat?
was me in the hat.
Okay. And y'all were working?
Work for him,
Yeah.
that's what work for my house.
Yeah, I just wanted to clear that up. You're in the yard with your son, working, and did you observe on that particular day, people, it's Friday afternoon, or Friday during the course of the day, people up and down the street on that particular day, riding bikes, things like that, and same time that Mr. Harrington came to the house?
Yes.
Okay. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but Timmy driving that truck, box truck, on any particular day wouldn't necessarily be an unusual event, would it?
No.
Okay. And also, Timmy driving that box truck and loading it up with stuff, whether it be weed eaters and stuff from the house, would not be an unusual event, a wheelbarrow, anything like that. You've seen him do that in the past, haven't you?
Correct.
And are you familiar with the fact that his grandfather and I think maybe his uncle, they rental property in town that Timmy has responsibility of helping take care of and do things along those lines?
Yes.
And I think he's been doing that for the family there in Grenada, even during his high school years, things of that nature, right? For a
Correct.
long time.
Yes.
Cortland does me for a minute. That's all I have, Your Honor.
Mr. Clink, you seem to know a lot about Tim Harrington. Are you friends with Tim Harrington?
We were neighbors, and we, when he was younger, he would come over to our house some, and I know my kids, and he and his sister jumped on our trampoline before, and yes, I would say we're.
You and Tim Harrington are friends.
I haven't spoken with him much in a long time, but I know when the kids were growing up, we're around each other some.
Tell the jury whether you've actually seen Tim Harrington load up a wheelbarrow into that box truck. Specific memory.
I remember seeing a wheelbarrow being taken to the box truck, but I can't recall if it was loaded in there or not specifically.
Just that one time.
There's been times where they load things on and off, garden equipment, lawnmowers, things like that on trailers and different trucks, and
Trailers and different trucks.
and possibly a boxcar before.
A boxcar.
That boxcar or boxcar I've seen at the house before. Yes.
You've seen it at the house before. But I'm talking about Tim Harrington loading up a wheelbarrow into that box truck. You've said one time. And that was on that day, correct?
I don't even know if it was Timothy that day. I saw some activity that day. I noticed a person, taking a wheelbarrow to the boxcar, but I'm not sure if indeed it was Timothy or not.
Court's indulgence. Cross-examination, you were very sure about that, and now you're saying you don't even know if it was Tim Harrington, correct?
Very sure about.
Yeah, on cross-examination, you said you were sure that you've seen Tim Harrington load a wheelbarrow onto that box truck. When Mr. Horan was asking you on cross-examination, you said, yeah, I'm sure of it. But now you're saying that you're not even sure if it was Tim Harrington that you saw.
It's a mischaracterization he's talking about on that particular day.
Clarify when you're talking about.
Yeah. You can answer the question.
He asked me if I remember
my son working out with me in the yard. He asked me if I remember people going up and down the street. I remember seeing the boxcar. He asked me,
He asked you if you were certain that you had seen Tim Herrington driving that box truck, and you said yes.
I don't remember him asking me that.
Okay.
If I remember seeing Timothy Herrington driving the boxcar.
Now, you've been reluctant to provide testimony, even you wanted a search warrant rather than cooperating with law enforcement. Is that let me finish the question. Is that a fair characterization? That you've been reluctant to come provide testimony?
Anybody would be reluctant to be involved in something. There were various reasons why I wanted a search warrant.
I'm not talking about anybody, I'm talking about you.
And
Have you been reluctant to provide testimony, provide evidence in this case that could be relevant? If the court decides it is?
It's my right to have a search warrant
I understand that. I'm just asking if you're reluctant.
to provide any evidence to any law enforcement. I don't want anybody coming into my house, going through my video without a search warrant.
I understand that.
It's not.
I'll give you an
reluctance.
opportunity to explain.
Question, yes or no, and then you can explain anything.
Is it safe to say that you are reluctant to provide testimony and potential evidence in this case?
Define reluctant, please.
That you don't want to? Because you're,
No,
because of
it's not
some,
that I don't want to.
are you afraid because,
No, I'm not afraid.
are you, do you have any fear of any retaliation against you?
No. None at all.
Any objection? You just brought it last way. All right, this witness be found excused.
Again.
Next meeting is Lincoln, free to go. Welcome.
Please state your name to the jury.
My name is Benjamin Douglas.
And how are you employed?
I work for the University of Mississippi Police Department. I'm currently on assignment to Lafayette County Metro Narcotics.
And what's your rank?
I'm a sergeant.
Okay, so Sergeant Douglas, how long have you worked for the University Police Department?
Approximately 6 years.
And you just said that you do, you're on loan to Metro explain that.
I'm on assignment, so
Okay, what's that
I've
mean?
been assigned to Lafayette County Metro Narcotics. So I have a time frame that I'm not working at UPD every single day. So right now I'm working for Lafayette County Metro every single day. It's a task force for the entirety of Lafayette County for specifically narcotics cases.
So let me take you back to July 2022. Were you working with the University Police Department at that time?
I was the detective sergeant.
And did you become involved in the case investigation into the disappearance of Jay Lee?
Yes, ma'am.
Tell me, how did University Police Department become, tell me what you did. How did you become involved?
So on the night of July 9th, I received a phone call about 8 o'clock from Lieutenant Herrington. She asked me to come to the University of Mississippi Police Department to assist with a welfare concern that was ongoing. Jimmie J. Lee had not been heard from by his parents for an extended period of time, and they called for welfare concern. At the university, we do welfare concerns pretty often. They call if a parent is worried about their kid. They'll call. They'll ask us to go and just check on them. And so we go to Campus Walk, or an officer went to Campus Walk and attempted to make contact with Jimmie J. Lee on the night of July 8th. They were unable to make contact. They found his door ajar. They went in, didn't find anything, didn't find him there, didn't see anything disheveled. So they just secured the door and left. They tried to make contact with him throughout the next day. But were unable to. And so around 5 o'clock-ish, Lieutenant Herrington was called and asked to come to the police department, and at around 8 o'clock she called me.
Okay, so once you became involved, what did you do?
When I got there at 8 o'clock, I went
Just to
to
be clear, what date was this again?
July 9th.
Okay, so when you became involved on July 9th around 8, continue on.
On July 9th, whenever I got there around 8 o'clock, I was informed that they had done a single ping on Jaylee's phone, but that they hadn't done any further pings, any further trying to get location data off the phone.
Before you go any further, explain, when you say,
Object to this as far as opinion information at this time, unless predicate's been laid for it.
I'll sustain objection.
could you explain what a ping is? Is that what you're referring to? You said you did a single ping. Could you explain like what that is?
So your phone connects to cell towers. Those cell towers give location data associated with when your phone connects to them, and then it gives a basically a margin of error as to where it could be, where the phone could be.
We talked about this pre-trial as to whether or not any particular witness.
At this point, I'm going to limit the testimony until we have further discussion about whether they recorded any pings or not. Okay, and then we'll probably have some more discussion, but I'm going to let him talk about whether any pings were received or not.
Thank you, Your Honor.
I wanted to hear, I couldn't hear Your Honor very well. What was
I'm
the,
going to let him talk about whether any pings were received
okay,
at this time, and we'll have a further discussion
Okay.
before we get any deeper than that, okay?
okay. So you're explaining that it connects to cell towers and within a margin of error. I'm not sure I know, what does margin of error mean?
It's basically like, we're going to tell you this, we're going to give you this latitude and longitude on a piece of paper.
I'm just going to limit his testimony at this time to whether or not any pings
were
were
received.
received on this phone as well.
Okay. When you are going to get a ping, what information do you provide?
When I'm going to go get a ping, I give the phone number. So I call AT&T Global Legal Demand Center. When I call them, they ask, I tell them that it's an exigent circumstance. I explain the circumstance to them, and I provide them a phone number, and they will send back a ping on the phone.
So tell me, what phone number did you provide?
I provided Jaylee's phone number, which is 601-622-2553.
And how did you know Jaylee's phone number?
We have regular access to student phone numbers through the Student Access Portal, the SAP system.
The SAP system?
So
that's the Student Access Portal.
So whenever students enroll at the University of Mississippi, they give data to the university. Part of that data is of cell phone addresses, things like that. The university keeps those records so that they're able to contact their students.
And did you all receive any ping data?
Whenever I called initially, I did not receive a ping. They sent me an email that said that the phone was an AT&T phone and was there, but there was no location data associated with the ping. While I was talking with the AT&T, the person at the Global Legal Demand Center, he told me that it seemed that the phone had been inactive for too long, and so there was no location data associated with it. So I asked him if there was any way for us to get historic pings through exigent circumstance. And so he provided me with historic pings on Jaylee's phone from 12:17 a.m. on July 8th to 7:28 a.m. on July 8th.
Before you go any further, when you say exigent circumstances, explain what that means for anybody who might not understand.
So an exigent circumstance is just an emergency. Him being missing, it could be any number of things that have happened to him. And so because there's an emergency circumstance, we need to be able to get in contact with him because someone else is concerned or has a reason for concern. We do not have to get a search warrant in that moment. We are able to get it through exigency.
So here you were able to, you did receive pings, you said from July 8th from 12:17 a.m. until 7:28 a.m. Your Honor, may I approach the witness?
Okay.
This is Your Honor, may I approach the witness? Okay. Sergeant Douglas, look through that and tell me, do you recognize that as the exigent circumstances ping data that you received? I believe you said July 9th, 2022?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
And yes, ma'am, this is it.
Okay. And has it been altered in any way since you received it on July 9th?
No, ma'am.
Okay. And it accurately represents what you received?
Yes, ma'am.
And at this time, I'd like to have it marked for identification purposes only.
It's gonna be, S-22. It'll be marked for ID. Only, just,
Yes. All right, thank you. So you have a copy up here. Okay. So from those pings that you received, were you able to develop any leads in that data?
The final two pings that we received were at 7:28:27 a.m.
Responsive to the question, objective.
I'm not sure I understood the question anyway, so I'm gonna let her repeat the question. And
I
then,
said, were you able to develop any leads from that data that you received?
answer yes or no, and then we'll go from there.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. And were you, from those leads, you said it's to find the phone's location. Were you able to develop where the phone could have possibly been between those hours for Jay Lee?
We were able to get multiple pings over the course of this time between 12:17 a.m. and 7:28 a.m. Some of those pings.
What, between when and when?
12:17 a.m. and 7:28 a.m. on July 8th.
12:17.
12:17 a.m. to 7:28 a.m.
Okay.
Okay.
I figure it's gonna be important later, so I won't get it right this time anyway.
And was there anything from what you know about the investigation on July 9th, was there anything you said, when did the phone, you said they told you the phone was no longer transmitting. When did it stop transmitting?
The final ping was 7:28:27 a.m. on July 8th.
Okay. So would it be important for you to find out where it was when it stopped?
Yes,
Okay. And why would that be important?
because people always have their phone on them. They travel with their phone in their pocket. We also, later on in the investigation, we determined that he had his phone whenever he left his apartment.
Okay. So when you receive this data, what is it that you receive? Like, what actually is it?
It's a series of latitudes and longitudes that also have a timestamp and a margin of error an area that they mark it as location accuracy, how accurate the location may be.
All right, I'm going to ask the jury to start walking off a little lunch and go back to the jury room, okay? You may resume your direct examination.
I believe where we left off, Sergeant Douglas, is when did Jay Lee's phone stop transmitting, or you could no longer receive pings?
Yes, ma'am.
When was that?
That was at 7:28 a.m. on July 8th.
And you received latitude and longitude information from the phone from AT&T, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, for the last location of the ping, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and what were the last two locations, the ping locations?
The last two locations, the 7:28 a.m. ping, the 7:27 a.m. ping was near Stone Park, and the 7:28.
We talked about that, John. You can give latitude and longitude only.
Said he could say it.
I'm going to let him. I think he can testify as to where that latitude and longitude intersect on the Earth.
As to the ping on.
I don't know exactly what.
Same ping.
So I think he was saying ping. You limit your testimony to where the ping came from, okay?
Yes.
I think that's what you did. Go ahead.
Yes, so the ping, the direct ping, the last two pings, the 7:28:27 a.m. ping on July 8th is near Stone Park, which is across from the Oxford Police Department. And the 7:28:26 a.m. ping is near Residential College South, which is at the intersection of Gertrude Ford and Jackson Avenue. So in relation to...
Well, I'll ask, how far is Molly Bar Trails from Stone Park?
approximately half a mile.
And how far is Molly Bar Trails from Residential College South?
Approximately 1.5 miles.
Now, you said you were doing this because, Jelly was missing, it was an emergency, and we're hoping to find him, as people usually keep their cell phones. What did you all do? The phone was off, or wait, before I get into that, you said they told you it stopped transmitting. Did that mean it was off? What did that mean?
It could be off, it could be broken. It's just not transmitting to cell towers anymore. So
Okay.
the cell towers are not receiving anything.
Okay, so it was just not there anymore. Okay, so how did your investigation proceed forward beyond the pings?
So after the pings, we continued looking for, the University Police Department continued to look for Jay Lee, look for his vehicle, look for things that we knew were associated with him. Then on July 10th, Lieutenant Carradine conducted an interview with Jose Reyes. I sat in on that interview. After that interview, I wrote a search warrant for Jay Lee's apartment.
Okay, did you actually go to the search warrant while it was being executed?
Yes, I did.
Okay, and I believe we've already sort of heard testimony regarding that. So following the search warrant on July 10th, had Jay Lee been found?
No, he had not.
So what were the next steps for you in your investigation?
Next steps were I filed an exigency request with both Apple and Google. So I filed an exigency request with Apple for information associated with Jay Lee's Apple iCloud. We didn't have his phone at this point, but Apple iCloud is integral to iPhones, and we knew that Jay Lee had an iPhone. We also knew Jay Lee's Gmail account, and so we sent an exigency to see if that Gmail account was associated with his iCloud account.
So tell me, what was your purpose for sending these two exigency requests? Like, why did you do that in the investigation?
We wanted to see if they had location data that they would send us immediately, like just immediately, because we were trying to find him. We also wanted to see if anybody had called him, if anybody had texted him. We were trying to just get generalized information that would help us find Jaylee, find where he was at, if we could.
And at this point in the investigation, did you have any information that you believe would make that relevant?
Can you repeat that question?
At this point in the investigation, did you have any information from witnesses or footage that would make that relevant, or anything?
Yes. Other officers had spoken with Khalid Fears. Khalid had told them that he was on the phone with Jaylee the night that he went missing, that he was about to go to a hookup with someone that he had previously blocked.
And did you have an opportunity to view any footage that might have corroborated that?
Yes, I saw campus walk video footage of Jaylee leaving his apartment. He leaves the apartment on his phone, and the door doesn't close all the way behind him, just the same way that officers found it whenever they arrived.
And did you later get a search warrant, or let me approach. May I approach, Your Honor? May I approach? I should show you that.
She's asked to approach.
Okay.
May I approach the witness?
You may.
Sergeant Douglas, do you recognize what I'm handing you?
Yes, ma'am.
What is that?
This is the Apple iCloud exigency form.
Okay, and is that what you received when you requested this back? I believe you said July 10th?
This is what I sent to
this
Apple
is what you sent. Okay.
to receive information back.
Okay. And has it been changed in any way?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Your Honor, at this time I'd like to have the Apple exigency marked for ID.
All right. Well, for ID purposes, fine. S-23. Is that the warrant or the return?
This is just the what he requested, his request. Sergeant Douglas, did you at all follow up on, I believe you said something to Apple and to Google. Did you follow up on that?
Yes, we received the exigencies, but we eventually wrote search warrants for the information associated with Jaylee's Apple iCloud account and his Gmail account.
Okay. And when you did you receive information back from either of those?
Yes.
Okay. Your Honor, may I approach the witness?
You may. And you don't have to ask every time. I don't think y'all gonna fight or anything.
Stack. Accidentally got the. This was full search warrant. This was the Apple agency request.
Everybody good over there?
Apple search warrant on Jaylee's iCloud, I believe. Yes. This is the Apple for his iCloud, yes. And then, hold on a second. I didn't get that one. Sergeant Douglas, you recognize what I've just handed you?
Yes, ma'am. This is the search warrant for Jay Lee's Apple ID information,
Okay.
or iCloud information, excuse me.
Is it the return?
No, this is the physical search warrant for the Apple iCloud.
Oh, okay.
So good return.
Yes, I'm just going to do return. And is that in a substantially similar condition as when you submitted it?
Yes, it is.
And has it been changed in any way?
No, ma'am, it is not.
Okay. Your Honor, at this time, I'd like to have it marked for identification.
In the Apple iCloud return,
Search
the warrant itself, or the return.
just the IDs.
This S-24 that's next, is that the iCloud return or the iCloud warrant?
Warrant.
Okay.
And you received information back from the Apple return and from the search warrant, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Tell me what relevant information did you receive?
We found a phone number inside of the return that returned to Tim Harrington.
Let me show you this.
Anybody know any good jokes?
So, I actually put one down. Okay.
Sometimes this work is tedious, I'll say that anyway.
Sergeant Douglas,
He didn't use that. I couldn't read it. He read it.
Sergeant Douglas, do you recognize what I handed you?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, what are the two things I handed you?
You handed me Apple message logs from the search warrant and a note that I found when going through the iCloud note data.
Okay, does that accurately reflect two of the items that you received back from the Apple search warrant?
Yes, ma'am, it does.
And has it been altered in any way?
No, ma'am.
Your Honor, at this time, I would move to enter those two items, the message logs he just referred to and the note from Jay Lee's iCloud account, into evidence.
Message log, and the other thing was?
A note, and I'll let you explain what the note is.
So the note has, when going through Jay Lee's iCloud account, there's a lot of information, a lot of data. One of the things that iCloud stores is your notes. So whenever you take a note on your phone in the Notes app, it's stored in Apple iCloud. Whenever we were going through those notes, we found a note, just like many people do, where he started writing down passwords associated with certain things. One of those things was Snapchat. We found a note that specifically said Snapchat and then had passwords written out next to it. And so we, when we found that, we downloaded the note, printed it off, so that we would be able to access his Snapchat at some point.
Okay, at this time I would have it, the note and the message log moved into evidence.
Is that a composite S-25, both are two different items?
I would do a composite, Your Honor.
You use that
Not without waiving my previous objections, but as far as this point in time, no objection.
All right, is that S-25, two documents? That is 25. All right, we'll be admitted.
Your Honor, may I publish the jury?
You may.
Okay. So, Sergeant Douglas, you just testified about a phone number that was related to Tim Harrington that you received.
We'll stipulate to the phone number to be worded out in the courtroom.
Oh. Yeah, you're right. He still has the same number, I do. He still has the same number? Okay. So, without saying what Tim Harrington's actual phone number is, just I would like you to look at, is it showing on your screen?
Nobody's, I don't think. In all likelihood, if it'll probably be shown to the world anyway. Don't show these phone numbers on the media at this time, okay?
Sergeant Douglas, are you able to see that?
Yes, ma'am.
And remind us again, this was from Jay Lee's this Apple search warrant, like the phone.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And you highlighted 2 times. What are those times?
In Central Time, they're going to be 2:54 a.m. in Central Standard.
You said in Central Time. When you received this, what time was it in?
I believe PDT is Pacific.
And our time zone is Central.
Central, yes, ma'am.
Okay, so this time would indicate what time again?
2:54 a.m.
Okay. And at 2:54 a.m., you said the phone number, which they have stipulated is Tim Harrington's phone number. What were you able to determine happened from Jay Lee's account regarding Tim Harrington's phone number?
It received some form of message from that phone number.
Could you tell what kind?
No, ma'am. There wasn't any data associated with the message. It was just, it returned on an iMessage return, so we assume it's an iMessage.
And the next thing you received, and I won't show this either, is the passwords account to Jay Lee's accounts, like different social medias.
Yes, ma'am.
And why was that important?
At this time, we had not received a return from Snapchat, but we also knew that Jay Lee used Snapchat quite often because we had talked to Khalid Fears, and he spoke about how he would talk to Jay Lee on Snapchat. We wanted to know who all he was communicating with on Snapchat. We also wanted to see if there was any sort of data that could help us find him, see if there was some sort of message on Snapchat that showed where he had gone or where he was going or what he had done. We were trying to, whenever we found that password, what we were able to do is we were able to log into Jay Lee's Snapchat as though we were Jay Lee himself.
So you actually use that password to log into Jay Lee's Snapchat account?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and Did you discover anything?
So in Snapchat, you're able to go into your settings as a user and you're able to download your own data. And so we went into it and we downloaded the data of Jay Lee's Snapchat account as though we were the user or the owner of the account. Whenever we downloaded that data, we were able to look at received messages. We weren't able to see the messages that Jay Lee had sent, but we were able to see the messages that Jay Lee had received. In those messages, we found texts in the time frame that Jay Lee had left his apartment that sounded as though he was going to meet somebody that he had already met. Messages like "come back."
And you said, were you able to see what user was sending those?
Yes, the username was redeye_24.
And you said around the time he was leaving. What time was that? I'm sorry, around the time Jay Lee was leaving?
Around the time that Jay Lee was leaving.
Yeah, what time was that?
Would have been around 5 a.m.-ish.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you. I actually couldn't hear you, but you can review your notes if you need to. Actually,
Yeah, I'm not able to remember exact times.
You said around the time he was leaving. Let me see what specifics. Your Honor, I'm showing the witness what has previously been introduced into evidence as S5. I just pulled this out.
Did we put that?
I don't know the login.
Did you get that?
Ah.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. I can't see my mouse. Oh, it's showing on there.
You want the first one or
I
the
want the
second?
final lead. It's showing up on the screen.
Have they got you anything except water to drink back there? Good, because I'm wanting Coke real bad. I wasn't gonna drink one if y'all didn't have an option to get one as well, okay?
There it goes. I think you just have to give it a minute.
You don't want something other than water out to stay in. You back to this one back there.
It was messages between 5:30 and 6 a.m.
I just wanted to get him when he walks out of his, so it's not. Yeah, I think you just have to wait for it to load. looks weird. This isn't how, this isn't correct. This isn't correct. No. Oh, is it?
Tell Jeremy the time frame.
I'm trying to go to the last time he was. Is it showing for everyone?
Yes, we'll
Okay.
get time to.
Yes. Sergeant Douglas, are you able to see States Exhibit 5?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And have you previously viewed this?
Yes, ma'am.
And is it accurate? This represents the last time Jay Lee was seen leaving his campus walk apartment.
Yes, ma'am.
And what time was that around?
5:58 a.m.
And you were saying that you, from the logging into the Snapchat, you were able to see that messages from a red eye, username red eye, and what did it appear was happening around this time when he was walking out?
They were saying, "Come over."
Okay. And why was that important to you, that you saw around the time he was leaving, he was getting messages from a red eye saying, "Come over"?
Well, Khalid Fears had previously testified that, or had previously told us that he was going to meet up with someone for a hookup. So someone that he had blocked. So we assumed that whoever he was going over to, who said "come over," could potentially be the same person that Khalid was talking about.
And was there any other information in the Snapchat account that you thought was relevant or to a lead?
Yes, there was location information inside of the Snapchat account.
Other than the location information, we won't be getting into that, regarding accounts that may have been blocked or anything of that nature.
Yes, ma'am. Under blocked accounts, there was an account with the username Tim Harrington.
And why was this significant?
Because Khalid had said that he was going to someone who he had previously blocked.
So, at this time, what did you all do, or what did you do?
At this time, whenever we finished reading the messages, we got a subpoena to Snapchat to get the user information associated, or the subscriber information associated with the redeye_24 account.
And were you, when you sent that subpoena, did you receive any information back?
Yes, the subscriber information revealed a phone number. That phone number was a Google Voice number. It returned to bandwidth.com was the individuals that owned the domain for the phone number. That phone number was a Google Voice number, so we sent an exigency request to Google to get subscriber information associated with that Google Voice number.
So before you go on, I want to make sure that we're all understanding. Was this was a phone number that was associated with a website, and that website was connected to Google?
So Google has a thing called Google Voice, where you can have a Google phone number, and so it was a Google Voice number.
Oh, so would it be accurate to say that the phone number is connected to a website, but it was like whoever owned the website, or that was their Google Voice number?
You could rent out or subscribe and have that phone number given to you via Google, just like you would do with any other mobile carrier.
And when you did that, I believe you said it went to a Google Voice number. Were you able to determine anything that was connected to, like the Google Voice number?
Yes, we got a Gmail account that was dirt2, the number 2, dirt2diamonds podcast at gmail.com. Whenever we Googled Dirt to Diamonds podcast, we found a video of Sheldon Timothy Harrington interviewing somebody.
Your Honor, may I approach? I apologize. I'm not going to ask him.
You can always approach him, guys over there anyway.
Sergeant Douglas, do you recognize what I'm handing you?
Yes, ma'am.
And is that the part of the return that you received when you sent the search warrant to Snapchat for the subscriber information of Red Eye 24?
This is from the subpoena.
Oh, from the subpoena, I apologize. The subpoena for the subscriber information for Red Eye 24.
Yes, ma'am.
And you sort of have already gone through it. That was connected to ultimately Dirt to Diamonds, and you Googled that, and it was a podcast, right?
That same Google Voice number had a recovery phone number that was also Timothy Harrington's.
Oh, so did you say that it had a
It had a recovery phone number. So a phone number, if you lose your password, it sends a code to your phone so you can get a new one. It had a recovery phone number associated with, that was Timothy Harrington's phone number.
So it was the same Timothy Harrington's phone number that we previously stipulated regarding?
Yes, it was.
Okay. So, and at this time, Your Honor, I would move into evidence the subscriber information from the Red Eye 24 account.
Which one is, which exhibit is that?
I think it's S26.
S26? So that, what we call them? Has it been identified?
He identified it as what he received.
He
back.
identified it, did it get a number assigned to it? I didn't think so.
I'll identify it.
Let's, pass it down to be marked as S26, and then I'll hear if you any objection to it.
I have my written objection as far as 90211 stuff that we talked about before, but I just want to make sure that Detective Douglas looks through all those documents, make sure we don't have any biographical information that may be.
All right, y'all look through that, make sure we don't have any of that, but, confirm this is a Snapchat return, as I go.
It's the subscriber information for Red Eye 24 account.
Any objection other than those previously noted?
No, Your Honor.
All right, it'll be admitted.
And so at this time, you received that return, and kind of give us an overview of what happened. This was the Red Eye account when you logged into Jay's Snapchat that was actually chatting back and forth with him.
Yes, ma'am. This was redeye_24, the account that he was using to speak to Jay Lee that night.
Okay. And at this time, when Jay was leaving, one of the messages that you could see from Red Eye appeared to be inviting him over.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And that coincided when Jay was leaving his apartment at 5:58.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So at this point in the investigation, what day did that happen?
That was July 20th.
Okay. Did anything
So
happen then?
we logged into his Snapchat on July 20th. We got the subpoena on July 21st.
Okay. So anything else of relevance happened on July 21st?
On July 21st, we also received video footage from Rockets of a white Kia picking up the individual that had run down from Molly Bar Trails.
And who was driving that white Kia? Did your investigation reveal that?
The investigation did reveal that. So on July 22nd, the PD had been looking just all day for that white Kia, seeing if they could find it. UPD found it at Campus Walk on the morning of the 22nd. A traffic stop was initiated on that vehicle, and Keziah Carter was identified as the driver.
So did Keziah Carter identify who he picked up on July 8th?
Yes, during the interview, he identified Tim Harrington as the individual that he had picked up on July 8th.
So at this point in the investigation, what did you all do? What did you all do?
So because we had Keziah picking up Tim running down from Molly Bar Trails, because we had the Red Eye 24 messages saying, come over, because we were able to ID Red Eye 24 as Tim Harrington, we decided that it was best to go and speak to Tim Harrington.
And you said it's the 21st or 22nd? What day is it? July?
This was the 22nd.
Okay.
Whenever we speak with him.
You said that the footage of Tim Harrington running from Molly Bar Trails, that Keziah picked him up. Why was Molly Bar Trails important?
Because Molly Bar Trails is where Jay Lee's car had been found.
And were you aware of anything about when Jay Lee's car entered Molly Bar Trails?
I had watched the video at some point, but I'm not aware of the exact time frames of each one of them.
But you know that it was the video Keziah picked him up coming from there?
Yes.
Okay, so you said you all decided at that point to that you needed to speak with him. Was this all in accordance also with information you had heard from Khalid Fears in the investigation?
It was. It all stemmed back to Khalid Fears had spoken about someone that he had blocked, that Jay Lee had blocked, someone that he was going to meet for a hookup, and the messages have come over. So we believe, so it just added to believing that we needed to go speak with Tim Harrington.
And I believe earlier you stated when you reviewed Jay Lee's block list, when y'all accessed his account, Tim Harrington the name that was under the blocked.
Yes, ma'am.
Did you actually participate in that interview of Tim Harrington?
I did not.
So where were you that day? What was going on?
That day, I was at OPD still reviewing data and getting the search warrants for the redeye_24 Snapchat account.
So tell me more now about that. You said you wrote a search warrant for the redeye_24 Snapchat account.
So I wrote a warrant for the redeye_24 search Snapchat account.
Okay. And why did you do that?
We wanted to get any information that was associated with that Snapchat account.
The first thing you did was you sent a subpoena for Redeye for subscriber information.
Yeah, I'd just like him to answer. I hadn't objected a lot of the lead, and I know this is technical stuff.
I haven't asked the question. I haven't asked the question yet.
Don't we lead your witness and try to be cognizant of it, okay?
So at this time, you previously talked about getting a subpoena for the subscriber information of redeye_24. Why did you get a warrant also for the Snapchat full information of redeye_24? Why'd you do that?
Well, all we got was subscriber information. We didn't get messages or other data that was associated with the account. And we wanted as much information from that account as we could possibly get.
Okay. And, Your Honor, may I approach the witness? Oh, I apologize.
He'll run you off from over there if he don't want you, so I'll let y'all worry about that.
Sorry, I'm so used to saying that. I'm going to take out this. That's your copy. Sergeant Douglas, do you recognize what I've handed you?
Yes, ma'am.
What is that?
This is the search warrant for the redeye_24 and Tim Harrington account.
The one that you received on what date?
The one that I got
sorry,
signed.
the way that you the one you drafted and sent off on what
I
date?
had signed on the 22nd, got it drafted and sent off. I received the information from it on the 25th.
At this time, I would move to mark this for ID, which is the search warrant for the redeye_24 account.
Be marked for ID.
Leave that as ID 27.
That was through Snapchat.
Yes, Snapchat for the red eye. So, Sergeant Douglas, you were saying that you got information back from this warrant?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And when you got that information back, what was the purpose again of why you wanted to get this
We already
information?
had one side of the conversation, but we wanted both sides of the conversation.
Between who?
Between Jaylee Snapchat and the Red Eye _24 Tim Harrington Snapchat.
Sergeant Douglas, recognize what I've just handed you.
Yes, ma'am, I do.
And what is that?
These are screenshots from the Excel spreadsheet that have all the conversations between Sucker for Jay, which is Jay Lee's Snapchat, and Redeye _24, which is Tim Harrington Snapchat.
And is it the same as when you received it?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. At this time, Your Honor, I would move to mark for identification purposes the conversations between the Redeye 24 account and the Jay and Jay Lee's account.
For ID on this time, right?
Yes, for ID.
That'd be 28, won't it, Kathy? All right, be marked. An hour and 15 minutes, everybody good? Let me know if you're not, okay?
Sergeant Douglas, what time period did these messages go over? What was the relevant time period for you?
In Central Time, these messages are from 5:17:09 a.m. till 6:03:15 a.m.
And I believe you said in Central Time. Why did you say it like that? How do you receive the data?
These are written in UTC.
What is UTC?
It's, I believe that the term is universal time.
Okay. And to get to Central Standard Time, our time, what do you have to do?
You have to subtract, I believe, 5 hours from it.
Okay. And it also appears to be some kind of spreadsheet. Like, why is it that?
This is how it was sent to us. It was sent to us in an Excel spreadsheet. So there's an Excel spreadsheet that has tabs. One of those tabs would be the sending user, the receiving user, the text, and then the timestamp of the actual message.
And just so we're clear, these are the messages between Jay Lee and the Tim Harrington Redeye 24 account from when to when?
From 5:17:09 a.m. through 6:03:15 a.m.
And at this time, I would move to enter into evidence the Snapchat messages between Jay Lee and the Redeye 24 Tim Harrington account that he just testified to.
Any objection?
Other
Other than previous objection. All right, that'd be S-28, would that be correct? S-28 will be admitted.
I just want to make sure for the record, I think I got a string of objections, but my relevancy objection is still moving forward. I know, hadn't heard anything about any making it relevant, but I have been objecting to relevance.
Your objection as to relevancy has been noted as well.
Thank you.
Your Honor, may I publish to the jury? Okay. Sergeant Douglas, I want us to go through these messages together. Do you have the full messages up with you to read?
I have the exhibit, yes, ma'am.
Okay. If you could, tell us I'm going to show it up here, and you have for them to see, and you have one so you can look at it. Tell us who is speaking and what is being said, and the time.
Yes, ma'am.
Am I at the beginning, the right
The
time?
beginning's at the very bottom. The beginning is at the very bottom, the very last row.
Oh, thank you. So that first message would be it. So, go ahead and tell me, what does it say?
The message says, "Who TF is this?"
And what is that? Who TF?
Who the fuck is this?
And who sent that message?
That was Jay Lee to Red Eye.
And you could just go on to the next one and tell us back and forth who will be speaking.
So it's Jay Lee, he says, "Who the fuck is this?" And then he sends a question mark. He then sends, "What did you
Speak into the microphone.
What did you just delete?" He then sends, Jay Lee then sends, "You made it like this." Red Eye responds, "Come back at 5:26 a.m.
Okay. And the next message, who is that from?
Harrington sends, "You coming or nah at 5:26:54 a.m.
Continue on, please.
Lee then says no at 5:27. Harrington asks why not. Harrington then sends 2 question marks
At what time?
at 5:31:43 a.m. Lee says, you just wouldn't even eat my ass 1 hour ago after I cleaned and everything. Then you proceed to nut in my mouth. Hopefully you ain't been fucking nobody raw. Then ask if I'm gonna stop harassing you now that you want to stop linking. You know how much of an asshole move that is."
What time was that message sent?
That message was sent at 5:34:40 a.m.
Not on this document.
It's at the very top.
Where's the Let me show you. Okay. Now show us where it is on the document and why it's not showing fully on the screen.
At the very top of the document, it has the entire message and then it says which file it is. So it's K140.
This is K1.
So K140. So in the middle, you can see that the row is K, the text row is K. And at the very left, it says 140, so you can see that the row 140 on the very far left side of the document. And if you move over, you'll see the beginnings of it at the very top of the document. It shows the entirety of what's contained inside of that message.
Why did y'all, when you printed this out, why did you do it like that?
Because we couldn't, I wanted to, in this screenshot, I wanted to get the sender, the receiver, the sender, the text information, and then the time all in one screenshot.
Okay. And so if you could tell me what time that last message you just sent, what time was that sent at?
This was sent at 5:34:40 a.m.
And if I'm reminded, what time did Jay Lee ultimately leave his apartment?
At 5.
Leave his apartment. What time did Jay? I apologize, I wasn't clear.
No objection.
What time did Jay Lee ultimately leave his apartment?
Around 5:50 a.m.
Okay, so we're at 5:34 a.m. right now. If we could go back to the messages, who sends the next one?
Jay Lee does.
And what does it say?
He says, "You fool."
And go on and continue on with the conversation and the timestamps and who's speaking like before.
after you fool, it is Jay Lee. He says, like you done did some questionable shit, but that was too much. Jay Lee then says, have a good night, Tim.
And why was that relevant to you, that message? Have a good night, Tim.
It helps confirm that Tim Harrington is the individual that he is speaking to.
Continue on saying who is speaking, the time, and what the message content is.
The next message is from Jay Lee, and it says, yeah, now it seems like you just trying to lure me over there to beat my ass or something.
What about the next? And what time was that sent?
That was sent at 5:37:16 a.m.
And what about the next?
The next was sent from Red Eye, which is Tim Harrington, and says, you tripping, I do feel bad, because we cool, I ain't trying to end it like this. The next is from Jay Lee, and it says, how we cool, and you barely want me to text you.
You can please tell me the timestamps as well.
That was sent at 5:39:10 a.m. The next was Harrington. It says, I'm saying you're a cool person at 5:39:54 a.m. The next is Jay Lee saying, when the last time you've fucked somebody, don't lie. That was sent at 5:54 a.m. Harrington responded and said a few weeks ago at 5:41:39 a.m. Lee responded with raw or condom at 5:42:14 a.m.
And we'll start again. Oh, the next page. When you pick up to the next conversation and the time and who's speaking, let me know.
So at 5:44:49 a.m., Jay Lee responds, only way I see you again is if I'm getting head in the front. At 5:45:14 a.m., Harrington responds, At 5:45:19 a.m., Harrington sends okay. At 5:45:43 a.m., Lee says, what you keep deleting, and that's it, just okay. At 5:46:21 a.m., Harrington states, I misspelled something, and okay, I'll do it. At 5:48:02 a.m., Lee responds, YK, or you know, if you try something fast, it won't end good for you, right? At 5:48:19 a.m., Harrington responds, WYM, or what you mean, something fast. At 5:48:45 a.m., Lee states, like try to hurt me, or son, or some shit. At 5:50:25 a.m., Harrington responds, I know. At 5:51:14 a.m., Lee states, possibly later tonight. At 5:51:38 a.m., Harrington responds with, LOL, I just told you I'm leaving later today. At 5:53:48 a.m., Lee states, LOL, okay, we finna, or fixing to, see if you lying. At 5:48:01 a.m., Harrington responds, lying about. 5:54:19 a.m., Lee says, making it up. 5:54:34, Lee says, I'm coming. At 5:54:56, Lee states, what that mean? At 5:55:39, Lee states, has there ever been a cent before? At 5:55:44 a.m., Lee says, I'm asking. And at 6:03:15 a.m., Lee says, open.
And if we go to the next page.
That's the end of that conversation.
All right. Okay. Let me, brief indulgence. says open. What was the last message? I apologize. I was following along that you, Jamie sent.
At 6:03:15 a.m., Lee said open.
Okay. So. After receiving that information, you said you previously didn't have the full conversation. But did that amount to, when we look at the timeline of when Jay Lee left his apartment and all that, how did that all connect?
This matches exactly with when Jay Lee was leaving to go to Tim Harrington's apartment.
Did you do any other search warrants?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
And tell me about the ones of interest in the case.
So there are two that are that we found information that we thought was relevant. The first one is the Dirt to Diamonds search warrant, the Dirt to Diamonds podcast at gmail.com. We did a search warrant for the information associated with that Gmail.
And remind me again, what was Dirt to Diamonds?
Dirt to Diamonds was the same podcast that was used to register the Google Voice number that was then used to register the Red I-24 Snapchat account.
And how did you discover it was connected to Tim Harrington?
Both with the recovery phone number and the podcast that he has out for everyone to see.
And that recovery number was his real phone number?
His actual phone number, yes.
So let's start, I guess, with the Dirt to Diamonds. When you applied for that search warrant, did you receive a return?
Yes, I did.
Good, Jerry? Let me know if you're not.
Sergeant Douglas, is this the Google search warrant, or the search warrant you sent for the Dirt to Diamonds to Google?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And has it been, does it accurately represent that search warrant?
Yes, it does.
Okay. Tell me again, what date did you draft that and send it off?
This one was signed on August 3rd. We initially sent the first one. We didn't get almost any data back from the original. We didn't write in the search warrant. We didn't explain each individual application that Google has, and so they didn't give us anything back for things like YouTube or Google Search or Google Voice, things of that nature. So we wrote into the search warrant all the applications that Google uses and provides, all the services that they provide, the applications that they run and have. We made sure that those were in the search warrant so we could get information associated with those things from Google. And so we wrote a second one. So the first one we wrote on July 25th. The second one we wrote on August 3rd.
And July 25th, was that be the day that the red eye, like you got Tim Harrington's red eye messages?
That would have been the day that we got the return from Snapchat.
To see that full conversation that we just went over?
Yes.
Okay. This time I would like to mark for identification the Google search warrant to Dirt to Diamonds podcast. Or, yeah. Wait. Brief indulgence. And were you able to get information from that Google search warrant? Did you receive something in return?
Yes, I did.
Sergeant Douglas, is this what you received in return? Could you identify that for us?
Mark for identification, I think.
Let him identify it and then mark it, and we'll go from there, okay?
These are this is the Google search history associated with Dirt to Diamonds podcast at gmail.com.
Okay. And what was that time frame that you got that for?
We got it up to, it's written in the warrant.
I'm not objecting to it, what Mark, I have an objection to it. She's not trying to introduce it.
I'm going to have him do some further identification for the relevant time frame, mark it for ID, and then I am going to
Oh, she's gonna try to introduce it.
you're trying to introduce it after that.
I would need to review my search warrant to know the entire time frame that I.
Handing the witness what has been previously marked for identification as the S-29.
The time frame was May 28th, 2022 until July 22nd, 2022.
Your Honor, at this time, I would move to have the Google search warrant returned, marked for identification.
Okay, be marked for ID.
Sergeant Douglas, I'm handing you what's been marked for ID as State's Exhibit 3rd, or State's Exhibit 3rd, yes. Tell me, when you got that return, did it contain any messages that were relevant?
So these are searches. This is the search history.
I apologize. Thank you for letting me know.
Yes, ma'am. So there is a search.
Answer to be yes or no, Your Honor, at this time. Object to the non-responsive answer. The question was, did you?
Go ahead and repeat your question anyway.
Sergeant Douglas, did it contain any messages that were relevant to the disappearance of Jay Lee, Tim Harrington, anything?
Yes, it contains searches that were relevant to the case.
Okay. What was, if you could tell me the time frame of the searches?
On July 8th, 2022 at 5:56 a.m., Tim Harrington Googled how
hold
long,
on.
or Dirt to Diamonds podcast at gmail.com.
Wait, hold on. It sounded, now that he said they were relevant, I would just move to enter it into evidence at this time, Your Honor.
Object, Your Honor, at this time.
Oh, hang on a second. You're asking that S-30 be introduced into evidence this time.
Yes, Your Honor.
What's your objection?
Your Honor, I'd like to be outside the presence of the jury.
Y'all step that way, be a good time to take a break anyway, okay? So let's all take this short break and then come back.